So what you are going to be hearing from me today will not only be some theoretical knowledge and some knowledge about foundations, but you will also get some hands-on knowledge from me that I have in at the moment with half a dozen ongoing enterprise generative AI applications in different projects with companies that range right now from the size of 30 people to 300,000 people. So that's what I do in my day-to-day life. And we are doing together with the Center for Deep Tech Innovation these webinars quite frequently to have together a little bit of a connection to you. And I hope that you can learn something today and hopefully have a lot of questions. We are quite a big group. We hit user number 50 right now. So we are going to do the following. I will give a little bit of an introduction about the topic that we are here for today. Specifically in the first stage, focusing about how we got here, what is the relationship to business processes and AI, how do we typically carry out projects with generative AI in terms of project management in an organization? What types of use cases do we have? And the end, we talk a little about what we do and if you need further assistance, how to do that. This is meant to be a little bit of interaction, so I'm trying to make small pauses wherever I can after every section. So whenever you feel like you have a question, feel free to use either the chat and my lovely assistants, Faik and Emilia, will try to monitor all of your questions and support you with whatever you would need. So if you see me sometimes looking to the left, that's because I am trying to monitor a little bit about the chat, what is happening on my second screen. So just that you are aware. But even after this introduction presentation, we will have a little bit of more time to also ask some questions and answer some questions in the very end. And without further ado, I would say we have quite a lot of people in here. Let's first talk about how we got here. Well, not how actually you got here. You probably just clicked the link in Eventbrite and came here, but how we as professionals in the space where generative AI is interesting to us or interesting topic, or we are already working with it. How did we come here? And that all started the whole craziness with generative AI. So we are going today to talk specifically about generative AI, not so much about the other types of AI. Is when we're talking about generative AI, the let's say the fire that was started in the beginning was started by ChatGPT. ChatGPT is a chat interface in front of what we call today a large language model by a company called OpenAI that was released as GPT 3.5, so the underlying model in late 2022. ChatGPT is nothing else than a chat interface with a little bit of pre-prompting and configuration so that people can interact with it. That got initially quite a very good response, not only on social media, but also within a larger scale enterprises, because we had large language models were actually there before there was ChatGPT, but they didn't really make the cut into like mainstream business development and innovation at that point in time. But what it made it so accessible was the easiness of using a chat interface to interact with it and getting some more or less astonishing answers now and then. Why is this so accessible? Well, because a chat interface can basically be used by anyone who ever has used Telegram, WhatsApp, Messenger, or Microsoft Teams, or any type of communication device after 2005. That's what it is. So we saw that in companies, there's a lot of, let's say, a lot of experimentation going on that is focused in the beginning, of course, on a chat interface, ChatGPT. Microsoft with their Microsoft Copilot also has there a product that is enterprise grade, but in the end is also still a chat product. What really these tools do is they allow us to think about productive use. They imagine us to dream about what our businesses could be like if we could harness the power of these applications end to end. And then there was, the typical consulting and investment analysis. People were looking into this new moment to see if we are here at the same point in time like we were with the internet in the 1990s, and if this is going to be the next big thing. And so here's a graph from Goldman Sachs Global Investment Research from the beginning of the last year, where they were looking a little bit into different industries and how much of the work within that industry will see zero to no automation in dark blue with AI at all. And you see here that especially industries that are in the building, in the installation, everything in the production industry, you see that there's a large amount of tasks and business processes that we will not see a lot of use with generative AI because it's physical. Generative AI can't put one stone on another stone. Not talking as a metaphor, but talking about physics. We see that in a lot of the cases, we will use AI as a complement to our existing work. For example, for computer science and mathematical, for anything that is related to sales, to architecture, and to engineering, to business and financial operations, to education, to management, to science, to office support, to any type of services. So there is a lot of possibility to use an AI to complement people that are working on existing use cases with existing tools, but making these things a little bit better. And then we see these are the gray ones, use cases where we have at least a bunch of use cases that will see likely a replacement by an AI. And that is mostly in the office and administration support and in the legal field. Which is very interesting. We are having a lot of legal AI applications right now that I'm working on. So what is basically, when we're talking about ChatGPT versus enterprise-grade generative AI, what are the challenges that we have to take into account? Well, first of all, compliance and privacy. So when you ingest data into a large language model, it is usually being transferred to the servers of whoever is hosting that large language model. In the case of OpenAI, it's the OpenAI service, or if you have it to the Microsoft Copilot, it's of course being done to Copilot. Of course, you may or may not trust these providers of these services and of these models, but that might, in what depending on your situation is, be helpful or not to your overall goals. There are now solutions to that. There are, for example, a whole slew of open source models that you can completely host on your own premises, execute if you wanted to. And there's other, let's say, legal requirements and compliance things from stuff like enterprise OpenAI or Azure, where you can get around this. The second challenge that you have is scaling and reproducibility. ChatGPT is a chat interface. So everything that you do in terms of interacting with that interface has to be done through chat. So humans are programmed to do chatting either with a machine or with a person quite in a natural way. So there is quite a lot of variation in the way on how we ask certain things and how we frame certain things. And since these generative AI models are statistical models, we will get a lot of variance depending on who is prompting the model in a specific way. So that's why there is a new discipline called prompt engineering, where we have basically methodologies on how to write the right prompts to get the right answers from a model that you would like to have. Because in the end, if you if you ask 100 people to use a ChatGPT to, for example, analyze some invoices, you might have a lot of variation. And that's exactly what we don't want to have when we have always the same process. We want to have consistent quality, style, and tone of the output. Otherwise, all of this is needs another layer of unification and of quality assurance. And that comes to the last part, and that's what you absolutely do not get with a public ChatGPT instance, and that's your having your own company knowledge being accessible by an LLM. There are a lot of structures with retrieval augmented generation, for example, on how you can make your own company information retrievable. But there is a lot of challenges related to that: authentication, authorization, role management, group management, but also typical tasks related to systems engineering and systems integration that you have. So in the end, what all of these things mean, if we want to have reproducible if you want to have reproducible outputs in an enterprise context with our data sources, we have to think not about chat interactions, but we have to think about processes. Because everything that we do as a business is a process. It might be a process that is well defined or not, but in the end, businesses have processes. And what AI really does in that environment is it makes our business processes more efficient by making our processes smarter. That's in the end all that is to it. So before we approach, this technology by saying, okay, we take now here a new tool and we are trying to find applications for it. It would be much smarter to look first into what type of applications could benefit from the technology before we start building something that in the end we will see might not work. And that's why I always recommend working with processes. We have here quite a big process that is showing how the CFO, sorry, of a mid-sized company is doing at the end of each month invoice controlling. And it happens in the following way. The CFO is getting about 500 new invoices every week, so about 2,000 invoices a month that they have to assess, map to a category and to a department, and ask the department head if they can go ahead and pay this invoice, sending a check or not. They ask this to not get ahead of just some scammers that are just sending invoices for the sake of sending invoices. The department has to decide to pay or not, and create a justification for that as an email answer to a CFO. The CFO receives that answer, checks the invoice, and then decides to pay or to decline in giving it further. That's the process that we have right now. And at the moment, it's a bureaucratic nightmare. There's a lot of email writing, manual thinking, manual analysis involved. And the question is, can we make that bigger? And we will use this example to go through what is our reference process that we tell everybody on how to do actually applications with generative AI in a structured way. So you can see, first of all, what's the impact and does it make sense to go to production in the end or not? This process has 4 steps: the select, the prototype, the productize, and the operate step. We are going to talk about the select step first. You saw this process about invoice controlling, and the process has different steps, different tasks that someone or some system has to do. And we would like to map all of our processes with all of the sub-processes that we have and qualitatively and quantitatively assess them. First, we have to qualify the pain point. So what is actually the pain? In the beginning, I said we have to map basically all of these invoices to a cost center, so to a category and to a certain department. The pain is that this is very repetitive, but it needs to be done in every single case. So if we have 1,000 cases, so 1,000 invoices a month, and we have a CFO with an internal rate of 50 euros an hour each, the pain point, so the quantitative pain point of that is about more than 4,000 euros a month each. On the other hand, we have a second activity, writing the email to the department head, which is very, very time consuming. So it's 15 minutes per case instead of 5 minutes per case. But it only happens in 10% of all cases because the others are just the same like last month and we don't have to dig deeper. So the pain point for that process is 1,250 euros. And then we have, of course, the department tab writing an answer to the CFO. That takes a lot of research time to justify all of these cost centers and these cost items, these billing items and these line items that you have. So it costs them about 30 minutes a case of also 50 euros an hour each, but only in 100 cases a month. That means it's about 2,500 cases a month. And based on that, please don't try to do everything from start to finish. Start with the big bang for the buck use cases or parts of use cases first and wing it from there. That's, excuse my language, but that's my recommendation. Because with one or more processes, you can go into the second step, which is the prototyping phase. In the prototyping phase, you model the specific part of the process that you're interested in. You translate it into a series of prompts. And it's not only a prompt, it's more of a process, of a sequence with different prompts, with different data sources that we are all sticking together. And we're trying that out in isolation. Then we have to make a decision if the outcome is viable for a larger field of application or not. And depending on that, we either iterate or we give up or we go into the next step, which is prototype. Which is productize. The prototype basically, as said, modeling the process, translating into prompts, trying out in isolation and making a decision which to approach. So in here, we need to map the category and department and write the email. This is the part that we would like to focus on for that very specific prototype. Therefore, we need to think about inputs, outputs, and tasks. So input is, what am I feeding to my task? And therefore, we have data, case-specific context data and static context data. Case-specific context data is context data that changes from case to case, per customer, per instance, per invoice in our case, that changes. In our example, the exact information about the line items and the price points of those are plus the one who is billing it is the case-specific context data that changes from case to case. Then we have other static context data, for example, criteria, on which we extract key points. Our example, we would like to identify the area. We would like to identify what other things we are doing. We would like to identify what potential cost centers could be associated with that. That's the two type of context data that you need to be aware of and that we will see in a second in a real example. Then you have to think about the outputs. So first, in which form and representation would you like to show the output? In our example, we would like to have bullet points. And what are the types of the output? We would like to have a pre-written email so that we can send it out. And then the task is actually what you need to do. To map to a category and to a department, we need to extract information, create a summary, and write it. So that's the task we need to do. And with that, we can build a prototype. Of course, we could build that in a ChatGPT interface just to see if we find certain prompts. But what I actually recommend and what we are doing here with our customers is we are using a tool where you have basically prototype and productize combined together to build an application. And the tool is being called an engine. An engine looks like this. You log in and you see here a bunch of different applications that you can create. And what we are going to do now is we are building a application of the type AI process application. In an engine, you can build 4 types of different applications. Chat applications are the standard ChatGPT use cases, but with different models and with different data sets. We have company guru applications, which are more semantic search applications in terms of the search interface. We have process applications, and we have AI editor applications. If you're more interested in learning about these 4 application types, I would recommend our next webinar in about 4 weeks about the 4 types of enterprise generative AI applications. And we are going, for the sake of this here, creating a AI process application. And this AI process application is called invoice checker for controlling. In an engine, we have to say who owns this application, and this will just be an organization where we can put other people in and later share this application with. And what we are doing now is we are going to logic and we are building actually a process. And that's now the difference between I am standing somewhere in a chat interface and I'm prompting something, and we are building actually reusable templates in a reusable quality to optimize our processes. So what we are actually building here is not a process, but it's a process template that takes an invoice and not only an invoice, but a list of project mappings and writes an email asking for justification. That's the difference between a chat interface and an interface. We do here a sequence of different steps at the same point in time, and getting through it. When you are on that page, let me make that a little bit bigger. You see here this this application that we just created has now an empty canvas where we can create a application. And therefore, though we learned about inputs, right? Case specific and case independent inputs. We have one case specific input that is called invoice. That's a file of type PDF. And we have a second input that is called cost centers. And these cost centers and project mappings is also for this here a type of PDF. And it's per default always the same type that we have. And I show you how that looks like. This is our project cost center mapping sheet. In this sheet, you see that we have here a bunch of different project names. We have departments, we have project leaders, and we have the contact emails for these leaders. And I will just insert that as our standard data for that specific variable. That might change monthly on a monthly basis, yeah, and might need some adjustment because these cost centers are not super static. So that's why we put them here as a variable. So, and now it is time to create a prompt. And the prompt takes a model. In our case, we just use the public GPT-4o. You do that in an engine with this drag and drop interface where you can just pull down different messages and tasks together, and we are getting it in here. So, and now remember that we have here variables, and this is basically here just creating a template. We have a variable that is called invoice. And I have now a prompt that says, I have the following invoice. And then we insert for each of the times we execute this process, we insert the invoice. Extract all the items and try to figure out to which project it belongs. I have here a mapping to cost centers of all projects. And that's where we ingest the variable for cost center. Give me the name and the email address of the responsible person. And that's our very first step in this process. And that's the identification step, identification. So now I save this process template. And by saving this, I can now go and I can press launch and I can run this process template here without having to deal with any type of prompts. The only things that I need to do is I need to basically go here and upload my invoice. And I have here an invoice from Amazon Web Services, where you see this is an invoice to the Mobility Makers GmbH in Stuttgart in Germany. We have here different invoice numbers, payment terms, and we have different items, line items. And you see here that there is EC2 instances related to the project microserver. All of them are related to the microserver project. We have about 111 euros. And we have in tax, and overall we have 710 euros that need to be paid. So, and what we are going to do now is we are uploading this invoice into our process. And what happens now is that we use this one-step process and put it in with the data that we have and execute that whole process end to end. And we are only going to show the output once the output is computed here on the right side. So the right side, we remember, should give us an analysis about what it is that we have here. It says it's project microserver, to which cost center it belongs. And it says it belongs to cost center microservice, a microserver, and it is to John Doe. Actually, it's not to John Doe. I think I forgot uploading the cost centers. I'm sorry, that's my problem. There is the cost centers, and now we need to run it again. There you go. Yeah. And that should give us the name of the responsible person that we need to write an email to for output. So we see here all of the microserver, cost centers are microserver, and we have informations around here. And for some reason, I am not getting the right information that I should get here, and I have to just debug what I have been doing here. So we have cost centers. Yeah, this is called cost centers and not cost center. So that was a mistake on my side. I need to give it the same variable name than before. And then it will actually give me something else than John Doe, because John Doe is obviously just made up. And let's try that third time without me being too stupid to copy and paste names. Chris is asking, can you do batch output for multiple processes at once? Yes, you can. If you have multiple variables, you can do it with 10. I could say now this is invoice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we can add here as many inputs as we want, and we can do batch processing. But does that really make sense? Because if you put that all into one chat completion, the more information you put in a single completion, the higher the likelihood is that you get something quality-wise that is not what you initially wanted. So I would recommend doing each of these step by step, but having some sort of script that is basically triggering at once 10 times the same process, instead using 10 invoices in one process. But it's also a type of batch processing than we have here. Then we have another question from Adil. Adil is asking, why is the final output here not showing the invoice items? So first of all, it's showing now the correct project leader, and it is and the email address. And you have to understand that large language models are statistical models in the end. They are taking what we gave them as input and are turning that into something. And when we think now, or when we go back to the process that we built, I say, this is a very minimal prompt. I say, I have the following invoice, extract all of the line items and try to figure out where they belong. I have the following mapping. Give me the name and the email address of the responsible person. I didn't explicitly say that I would like to have a list of line items. I put that next to it. That's a very good point. And that's really what is prompt engineering right now. It's making the observation that Adil did and said, hey, I really want to have the invoices, but apparently this prompt that I just created was so poor, so that we need to make sure that we get consistent output. Because, you know, if the more information you give in describing what the output is, the better the reproducibility of results is. So I have here, give me the name and the email output address of the responsible person, together with a bullet point list where each bullet point is a line item with its price. Then I say format it in Markdown. So yeah, Markdown, because I would like to have a little bit of indentation and so on. So, and what we are going to do now is we are going to launch this process again. We updated it and we have to upload the invoice and press generate. And you will see that with a high likelihood, we are going to have now invoice line items. And that's really the process that you need to understand. It's not about just sitting there making a prompt, because think now you have 100 people in your organization that do that. And from them, they have to figure all out by themselves that they want the line items, they want information, they want the responsible persons. That's all inefficiencies that you have, or you can do it one time for all and just give that application to all of your users. And that's the part. But that was the first step of this process, because when we thought we know now the line items and we know now the responsible person, but what we really want to do now is the mapping doesn't help us to the very end. We need to write now an email to the person justifying or asking for a justification. So I'm saying I am the CFO of a company and I have received an invoice. I have identified the following line items and the following people who would be responsible because of the project mapping. So that's my first information that I give in. And then I have to insert the information from the last step. And then I have to say, write a professional email, write a professional email asking for budget justification, or not justification, reference, and whether or not I should make this payment. So, and that's the last part of the second step. Now we save that, and we are going to use a different way of doing that, because we have two steps now. We can use the internal debugging mode and basically now look into the intermediate steps that happen while the full end-to-end process is being executed. And you see basically that we have here the first step, yeah, with the line items as Adil asked, and with the name and the email address. Oops, sorry. I did do something wrong here. Wrong button. That's not it's not the tool's fault. There you go. So we have these items here, and now we have here the results that's come. And since the person was Max Meyer at mobilitymakers.com, we wrote here an email that is Dear Max, I hope this message finds you well. This is my line items. Can you please justify and confirm if these costs are correct and if I should make the payment? So, and that's now a simple two-step process. The processes that we usually do are much more complex than this here. And that's really the differentiation what I would like to tell you. If you have reproducible, recurring processes where you need to go from A to B and do something that is always the same with quality, it makes a lot of sense to do this type of templating so that you can just go and execute the same things over and over again. You can, in this tool, you can do many more things than just dealing with models. You can insert, for example, your own vector stores, your own information in databases, so your own company knowledge, so to speak. We have many different types of other models, speech models, image models, audio models, anything that you can want, and to automate that end to end. Garrett is asking, so essentially you are creating a flow and using AI to create the steps for you. You will just run the flow for each invoice. I would run the flow for each invoice, and I would probably make some sort of a batch interface where I can say, yeah, trigger this 10 times for me. There's also, or 100 times for me, because there's integration to an AI, to an API, where you can do that. Again, this here is a rapid prototyping and building interface that you can use in production too. So this interface here is auto-generated. No one has ever done here anything with front end. You can use that out of the box, or you can decide to use the API that is triggered now as I execute this here. So everything that this front end is doing it's triggering an API call in the back end. And you can, of course, use this API and integrate it into your existing bookkeeping, automation, scripts, email tools that you would like to have, however your heart's desire. So it's a production-grade platform, but it enables you with these auto-generated interfaces to build these types of applications very quickly. We can also build other types of applications. Not that doesn't need to be I told you about these 4 types of applications. So we have here, for example, a application where we are looking into insurance. Where's my insurance? There's my insurance. Yeah. We have here in a process where someone at an insurance company gets some claims that they need to review and see if these claims are correct and if they should discharge a certain amount of money. So this process is a little bit more complex. It has 2 steps with 2 tasks. The point what I want to say here is that this is not AI process automation application, but this is an application that we call an editor application. And the editor application basically puts all of the stuff that it creates into such an editor interface here, where you can then iteratively continue about. So looks a little bit like Microsoft Word, but it has the big difference that you have here AI snippets and other snippets with which you can iteratively work on this document. Atul is asking if this is sharing the data with the GPT-4 a model provider. Yes, in this case it is because we swapped here GPT-4o, but we can you see we have here a whole range of different models that we can use. And there's, for example, the Azure GPT-4o model where you can use your own Microsoft Azure subscription. Then you have at least data that is being processed when you're in Europe, and you have the things, the service level agreements. Or you can set up your own large language model with a open source model, for example, and hook it up to here, and it works in the same way. So it really depends. Okay, this was our prototype and productize step. And now we're talking about the operations part. So this is a quick summary that you already know, but the operation of an application like the one that we just built is the following. We also made this auto generation of this interface so that we can launch these applications quickly and roll out step by step. Yes, later you might want to integrate such an application in your already existing applications with the API, all no problem. But you would like to get user feedback as soon as possible, make updates, roll out and validate it, update again, and make iteratively improvements to your processes. And there's where this is now the point where all of these things that we are doing here is actually becoming product management. So don't see that as a one thing do and forget thing, but see it really as product management and as an instrumental step to your business process efficiency that you have, and treat it as that. This is not this is today not a workshop about product management, and I'm pretty sure that you're all aware of that anyhow. And that's basically what I do in my day-to-day life. I use this platform that we built and engine to build these 4 different types of applications together with our customers or together with our partners and their customers. So we have a partnership model in case you are a consulting company or you have the 100 different AI applications under you in a large enterprise. By the way, this is what we have done with quite a few customers so far. And need to scale, you can also work with us as a partner, and we give you that whole platform, either white labeled, so that you can use it as your own platform and build many, many different use cases with it. This platform is compliant according to a bunch of enterprise standards. We have different models. You have seen the features. We have text. You can deploy. That's the important thing. You can deploy this whole platform also completely on premise if you want. We can have any type of model in that we can also deploy on premise if it is available for on premise. The OpenAI GPT-4o model is, you can't just get a copy of that and deploy that for you as long as you don't work with Microsoft Azure. If you work with Microsoft Azure, then you can do that in a, let's say, more prohibited way. But yeah. It attaches to corporate organizational management with SSO and with many other tools. And here's a selection also about the applications that you haven't seen so far. And yeah, that's about it for today. I hope that you had some fun. You learned a little bit about what we are doing and especially about these 4 steps: select, prototype, productize, and operate. Yeah. Don't make that chaotic. Think about it really as a structured process. Make good selections, make good prototypization. Think about if the quality is on the level that you want. If it isn't, iterate. If you can't get it anywhere, either give up or call me. That's the message for today. And that's basically it. So if you folks have any use cases or you would like to become a partner and work with us and your customers together, feel free to book a meeting with us. I said it in the beginning, this webinar is recorded. The recording will be uploaded to YouTube very soon. So if you would like to rewatch something, you have any opportunity to do so. Faik and Amelia will send out a bunch of emails to you later this week so that you have something to look into. If you would like to explicitly have the slides, we're more than happy to give you the slides. Just write us an email. And if you would like to book a meeting, here is the link to my Calendly. And for now, that's the part of the content. And let's see if there are any more questions. Yusuf is asking how to automate these processes. For instance, how do you get processes you just demonstrated to integrate with your mailbox? Yusuf, that's pretty straightforward. Your Microsoft Mail or your Gmail has an API that you can get hooked up to. And on the other hand, our platform has an API. So you have to build a script that whenever the process is done, it triggers the API of the mailbox. We don't have single one-click solutions for all of these integrations, how we call it yet, and what we do. What are some of the competitors of this platform? Are there similar applications offered natively, likes to Microsoft or OpenAI or Google? That is, I know all of the competitors, Atul. The thing is that the majority of this specific industry right now is focusing on chatbots, which is good for a bunch of use cases, but which is, in my opinion, neglecting the really, really impactful cases, because the impactful cases are those that are more complex than what you can do with a chatbot. Think about this. Here was now a simple two-step process. Think about this would be a five-step process. And for each of these 5 steps, for each of these 1,000 invoices, you would have to you have someone going there and typing and talking to a chat interface. That's what Microsoft is providing to you, or they provide to you the API to OpenAI, and then you can build this thing yourself. There is other tools like Zapier where you can have native integrations to OpenAI, but the model is not the most crucial part. The most crucial part of building these applications is putting the model, the data, the variables, and the templates so together that you have something reproducible. And that is something that we do rather uniquely currently in this market. So if you have cases and you want to have a co-pilot and chat with somebody, go by Microsoft Copilot. Yeah. But if you have something that is really complex, that is deeper, and where you have a real high pain point, then come to me.